We see this frequently during the Trump presidency. It's sort of presidency by slogan or by hyperbole or by the appearance or the performance of strength.
As his administration struggles to conclude the war with Iran, Donald Trump had this to say at a police academy in New York on Friday.
And after we finish defeating Iran, which is being very badly defeated, pretty soon I'll be declaring the Hormuz Strait a territory of the United States. So I just say this. So for you to pay a tiny little bit more for your gasoline, we don't want to have them have a nuclear weapon. So remember that.
The US president also said that he would never apologise for going to war with Iran. Responding on X, Iran's foreign minister said Tehran would not be intimidated by threats and reinforced that Hormuz would only be opened or closed under Iran's authority. Well, joining us to discuss all is Niall Stannage, White House columnist at The Hill. Good afternoon from here. Good morning where you are, Niall.
Hey, Jane. Good to be with you.
Thanks so much for joining us now. Now, that clip, we heard Trump almost laugh as he announced this idea of making it an American territory, the Strait of Hormuz. Do we think he's any way serious about this?
I don't honestly think so. I think, to be clear, he's serious about making the claim. I don't think he's serious about actually doing anything to back up the claim. We see this frequently during the Trump presidency. It's sort of presidency by slogan or by hyperbole, or by the appearance or the performance of strength. But right at the start of that clip, Jane, he talked, as your listeners heard, about Iran having been very badly defeated. Well, at the outset of this war, at the end of February, early March, he was talking about a conflict that would last a few weeks. Here we are in mid-August, and, it is obviously still a conflict zone, even if the actual pace of fighting has zigged and zagged somewhat.
I mean, is this a kind of defensive posture that he's making here, Niall? Refusing to apologise for going to war with Iran, saying people shouldn't complain about more expensive gasoline, when, this is, as you say, a war that's gone on far longer than he ever thought it might.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And I think those remarks on the price of gasoline were particularly telling in that respect. This has been a war that has been unpopular since its inception. It's quite unusual in that respect. Previously, we've seen conflicts where there was public support initially and then it dribbled away. One of the reasons it is unpopular, though, and that it has become a real weight on the Trump presidency, has been the rise in petrol prices. The price of a gallon of petrol here is more than $1 more expensive in terms of the nationwide average than it was just before the war. That obviously affects many, many millions of Americans. It obviously adds to inflationary pressures. It's very bad news for Trump. So he tries then to essentially reframe or sometimes rewrite what is happening to insulate himself from, frankly, some of the political damage of his own choices.
Now, on a slightly lighter note, Niall, we have for the last couple of weeks been hearing more and more about this very popular diet in Washington, D.C., led by Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy, about meat and fermented vegetables. It's apparently taking your city by storm. J.D. Vance is now following it, Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick. This is the steak and sauerkraut diet. But we've heard the Secretary of State Marco Rubio isn't so convinced. On the Katie Miller podcast this week, in which he appeared alongside his wife, they called it crazy.
This is a diet that consists of eating sauerkraut and meat. Now, you understand, this is not a sustainable thing. You can't just walk into it,
Well, he sustains it because he does it.
Can you imagine? He has to travel with coolers of sauerkraut. I'm not going to travel the world with a cooler full of sauerkraut. It's ridiculous. I can't do it. It's not sustainable.
Are you Maha?
I'm in favor of Maha. I think people should be healthy.
No, he is not.
But I think ultimately, at the end...
He is completely not.
What's he eat?
Pop-Tarts.
Is this the sign of Marco Rubio ultimately breaking rank here, Niall, that he's happy to admit that he's refusing to join this steak and sauerkraut gang and just, keeping his Pop-Tarts in his kitchen cupboard?
Well, look, if we set aside, policy and all the serious stuff here for a second, Marco Rubio is, in fact, one of the, in my view, more relatable members of the Trump administration and is, a very good political communicator. If we were going into the serious elements of his career, there's all sorts of caveats I'd put around that. But there, I just thought he came across as a fairly normal person who does not, in fact, want to go on the kind of travel schedule kept by a US Secretary of State with coolers of sauerkraut near him. That seems a reasonable position to take, I would have thought.
Absolutely. Are there people you know who are trying it now, Niall, in Washington?
I'm certainly not, but I don't know what that reflects. I prefer standard measures like going for a run and not overeating. Look, I mean, the Maha movement is a real thing. I don't personally know people on this diet. The Maha thing encompasses everything from a perhaps understandable skepticism about additives and artificial colorings in food to, of course, you know, the Kennedy's views on vaccines are exponentially more controversial. But the Maha movement is a real thing, yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned political communications, Niall, and obviously another big story this week has been that White House spokeswoman Karoline Leavitt this week announced she'd be stepping down from her role to spend more time with her young children. Should we take it at face value that that is the reason she's leaving, or might there be other reasons for her stepping down right now?
I actually do take it on face value here. There are a number of conspiracy theories out there as to why she is stepping down at this particular time. There's no real need for me to repeat those there. If people are interested, they can find them very easily on the internet. I do, in fact, take this as it is being presented. She has quite recently had her second child. She had returned to work from that period, but has decided to go. I do not think there is some great secret conspiracy around her now imminent departure.
Do we have any idea who might be in the frame to replace her?
There are a few names that have been suggested. Alina Habba, a lawyer who had worked for the president at various times, is one suggestion. Jason Miller, unrelated to Stephen or Katie, a longtime Trump aide, is another suggestion. And there have even been some, or there has been some speculation about maybe not replacing her immediately, because you may remember, Jane, when she was off on maternity leave, there was a kind of rotating cast of characters, including Marco Rubio, who we've just been speaking about, who did, you know, one briefing and then it was, you know, someone else's turn next time around. They could perhaps stick with that plan for a while at least, and maybe until after the midterms.
I mean, she was one of the most prominent women in Trump's inner circle, and a very young woman at that. Does it affect, or do you think it might affect, his sort of female fan base and people's, you know, the way that people see him and his kind of, I guess, the gender balance, let's say, within his inner circle?
I suspect that if Karoline Leavitt is replaced, it will be with a female press secretary. You might remember that in the first Trump administration, you had Sarah Huckabee Sanders, for example, and a couple of other women in that role. Trump reputedly has favoured that, not because of specific reasons of gender balance, but because some people have said he was particularly unhappy with Sean Spicer's performance in that role. Spicer was there at the start of the first term and was, I think, frankly, ridiculed very frequently. Trump seemingly, or at least has been reported to have disliked that. I'm sure Sean Spicer would give a different but that's what has been reported.
Brilliant stuff. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. It's great to speak to you as always, Niall. That is White House columnist at The Hill, Niall Stannage.